My name's Nicole Gladkey and I'm from Do It Training, and today we're going to talk about Google Backup and Sync by Google, or it's from Google. And what this does is it's an application that uploads your data or backs up your data into the Google Drive storage space, and that's important because it's unlimited. So let me just get started here. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what do you know about cloud storage? What is cloud storage? Why is it called a cloud? Um, what does that have to do with backup and sync? So go ahead and type something into the chat what you think cloud storage is. Jason, I know you know this, unless you're on the phone. And Diane, where's Diane? Is she in here? Oh, she's not in here yet, but she was the one that asked me about cloud storage. Right. So with Google Drive, we have unlimited storage, and it's not on our computer, as Bridget has said. So Abigail says backup for what's on your hard drive. Yeah. Storage somewhere besides my computer. Yeah, definitely, Denise. That's exactly what it is. But why is it cloud? Why do we call it cloud storage? Welcome, Richard. How are you? We're just talking about cloud storage. Yeah. So Abigail said, right, exactly. It's online storage. Oh, there's an echo. So Denise, the reason why there might be an echo for you is because I see you in one more time. So you might have to remove or close one of the windows where you see this. You have this webinar open twice. Okay, so you got to find that screen. It might be behind another screen. Okay, great. So the reason why it's called cloud storage is because way back when I was first taking computer classes, I was learning about networking, and then we would have to kind of map out a network. And whenever you had something where your computers are connected to the internet, they just made the symbol was a cloud. So the internet means cloud. When you're creating like a flow chart of a network. So that's why that's why it's called a cloud. And what that means for us is that we just store it into the internet. So we're storing our files into the internet. Okay. And the internet, the storage space for us happens to be Google Drive because it's unlimited. All right. So that's why it's called a cloud storage. Now with backup and sync, we are able to sync from our computer to the unlimited storage space in Google Drive. We can sync or back up our desktop, our documents library, our photos library, and certain other folders, but not your department shared folders. Okay? And just so you know, this is a picture of a computer, and this is the cloud storage. The cloud storage is unlimited because we use Google Drive, but our computer has limited storage. Our hard drive space has a limit. Okay? Now, another thing that we can do with backup and sync is that we can pull some folders or all of our folders from the cloud, from my drive, down to our computers. Okay? So that's kind of convenient if, for example, you have intermittent access, or maybe you have Wi-Fi and you're going from one Wi-Fi to another, or building to building, or from Starbucks to home, and you're on Wi-Fi. What that does is it holds a copy of the document on your computer, and then next time your computer is onto the internet, it will make any changes you made on your computer to the internet. Does that make sense? So it's not seamless. If you don't have internet access, you can't update what's in Google Drive, but it will wait until you do have internet access to update your folders on your computer to the cloud. Okay. To get backup and sync, I'm just going to go through a few more of my slides and then I'm going to show you the product. Um, Backup and sync can only be installed on your work computer if you have administrator access. Most of us don't have administrator access on our computer, so we have to call client support to get that installed. Some of us might already have it installed on our computer and not even know it. But you can install backup and sync on your personal computer as well. So I want to make sure you know how to do that. To get backup and sync, you want to go to your email, go to Google Drive, click on this little gear, and then download backup and sync for whichever computer you have. I happen to have a Windows computer. So that's how to get it. When you go to download it, you're offered two options here: the personal backup and sync and the business drive file stream. These are two separate applications. They work similarly, but they're two separate applications. We are only allowed to use backup and sync with our Stony Brook credentials. We cannot use drive file stream yet. It looks like, I'm just checking my comments here, and it looks like that Richard raised his hand, which not a lot of people do in this environment for me, raise their hand. But I'm going to just check that off. I don't know if he did that on purpose or what. But Richard, go ahead. If you have a question, throw it onto the chat, and I'll look at it as soon as I take a peek over there. And I also want to welcome Stephen and Diane and James. Thank you for coming. Good morning. We are just getting started and we're going through our slides here, and I will give you all a copy of the slides. So when you're faced with this prompt right here, just click the download button under backup and sync. The steps to get backup and sync installed, there's three main steps. Number one, and I'm going to show you how to do each one. I have a screenshot for each one. Number one, you sign in. Number two, you choose what you want to store to the cloud. So from your computer to the cloud. And then the last step is to choose what folders from the cloud do you want to store on your computer. Okay? So here's the first step, signing in. And I must explain to you, there's something a little funny here when you go to sign in. We use SSO, single sign-on, to sign in. And here's your three steps. Sign in from my laptop from Google Drive. So we're on the first step of signing in. If you put your credentials in here, you're going to get an error. It just doesn't work. You have to actually go down here where it says using a single security key, SSO, or having trouble above, sign in with your browser instead. This is where we sign into the application. Okay, so it may seem illogical, but that's the way we have to do it. The second step is where we can choose our desktop, documents, our documents library, and our pictures library to back up and upload into the cloud. We also have an option to choose another folder that is on our hard drive, but we cannot choose our department shareds. So Richard writes, is the data upstreamed to Google Drive encrypted internally? Google has a habit of scanning all of its users' data, email. Yeah, so that's a little bit of a difficult question for me. The privacy policy is the same as just using regular Google Drive and uploading files to it. You can read the privacy policy that Google has for us. I'll show you where it is later, or I'll send you a link to it. And basically, from what I last read, which it could have changed, was that they have computers that kind of scan the data, but they do it for analysis. And I can tell you that there's just way too much data for anyone to be spying on us personally. Okay, so that's the extent that I can answer that question. If you need more, Richard, I can point you in the right direction. Okay, so we're on step 2. Choose our items to store into the cloud. And then our last step is where we decide if we want to pull from the cloud onto our computer so we can have local access. And this benefits us where if we don't have internet access, let's say we're going on a plane and there's no Wi-Fi, or wherever, we're just in a spot where there's no Wi-Fi, we can update our files that live in Google Drive, but we can update them on our computer. And then the next time our computer is connected to the internet, it will automatically sync and make the changes. Okay? Now, I can choose to sync my entire Google Drive to my computer, but I hesitate to do that because I am using 48 gigabytes of storage space on Google Drive, and I do not want to eat up that much space on my computer. I have very limited hard drive space on my computer. So instead of checking this off, you can check off certain folders that you're going to use. Okay. This is an old screenshot. I have more than 12 gigabytes. But you can. What I did here was I just checked off like one of the folders that I want to have synced onto my computer that I can work on offline. Okay. And when you're done, just click Start. Okay. I'm not going to go through the whole setup because I already have it set up on my computer, and I don't want to keep changing the setup. Okay, so Richard does need to be in touch with somebody who can explain the privacy policy. Abigail is typing, so I'll wait for her computer. So be very careful with step number 3. Don't sync everything from the cloud onto your computer, and that's the point of this slide. You can always change your preferences by going to the icon. Usually the icon on a Mac is up on top, but it's always next to your clock. All right, for Windows, it's in our system tray, which is this little area here by our clock, and it's a little cloud with an arrow or a couple of arrows depending on what it's doing. You can always change your preferences here by clicking on the icon next to your clock, and then click on the 3 dots, and then you have your preferences here. And I'll talk about all these menu items when I go into the application itself. Okay. All right, so let me see what's next. So most importantly, and this is the last slide before I go into the application, most importantly, your data is backed up automatically every day. And not just every day, but every time you make a change to a document on the desktop or on your documents library, or whenever you add a photo to your photos library, it's changed within a few minutes, within a few seconds actually. It's automatic, so you don't have to think about it. You can view or make changes to your computer's documents literally from any computer as long as you can access Google Drive, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can clean up your desktop from Google Drive, the web version, and you can move files from your computer to permanently stay in Google Drive, and I'll show you all of that. So let me see what Abigail writes. There's been discussion in our office if we can upload / sync our copies of personnel files. Is Google Drive considered secure? We don't have a lot of storage for paper files and thought this might be a better option. So Abigail, you have a question on the type of data you're storing and if it's safe to store that type of data into the cloud. And that's a really good question to ask. What I'm going to do for everybody here is I'm going to give everyone the information security team email so that way they can get it right from the horse's mouth. I don't want to say anything that that may not be 100% true, and they will be able to advise you specifically on where to store those personnel files. Okay? All right. So this is the end of my slideshow. I'm just going to close this up, close up my window. And close up my email. I'm just going to minimize this. Now I apologize, but my Drive, my backup and sync icon is very, very tiny, but I can tell you it looks like a little cloud with a blue arrow, and it's always next to your clock. So if you have a Mac, it's up on the top right. Windows PC, it's on the bottom right. Okay, and let me just get my notes. So the first thing I want to show you is that if you can see it, on these folders, I have the desktop synced to the cloud and docs and photos. Or actually, maybe not docs for this demonstration, but I'm going to mostly work from my desktop. And you can see, you can barely see it. I hope you can see it on your screen. But each one of these items here on my desktop has a green check. Okay? If, since I have the desktop synced, if I make a new file, which I'll do right now, new Word document, you could see here it's like 2 arrows, and that tells me it's syncing, it's being synced, and down at the bottom, it's synced already. It had 2 circular arrows letting me know that it's processing, but it updated. So now this new document is now on Google Drive. Okay. Also on Google Drive, I have my Google Drive folder here, and this is connected to a couple of folders in Google Drive on the web. And I can always throw new folders into this folder to be stored up on the web. Okay. So let me go down to the system tray here by the clock and click on the icon. This just shows me the last few items that were just synced, but you can see here that I'm signed into my Stony Brook account. If you can read that, I apologize, it's so small I can't really make it bigger. But I'm also using 48 gigabytes on Google Drive, not on my computer. And then I have some buttons here. This will open up the Google Drive folder, which is this one up here. So if I can't find this one, I can open it up right here and then toss things in here to be stored on Google Drive. Before I go to the next tool, let me just read some of the comments. So Richard writes, can you delete files from Google Drive after pulling them onto your desktop? Let me think. Because now this is getting very logical for me. Let me think. So it's on Google Drive, and you want to pull them onto. Yeah, you can delete. If you were to move them from Google Drive onto your laptop in Google Drive, it'll show on the desktop or wherever you put it, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, let me just get through all these tools. So if I click on Google Drive here, visit Google Drive on the web, this opens up Google Drive for me, and I can see that, let me make this, I can make this bigger. Here is my drive. And you're familiar with shared with me, but now I have, since I sync my computer, I have my computers here. And I only have one, but you can have more than one. And if I click this down pointing arrow, if I expand this arrow, you can see that I have my laptop connected to Google Drive. And if I expand this one, I am connecting desktop, documents, music. I don't even know what music is. That's something new. I didn't put that there. And pictures. I can delete that later. Okay. And then, so if you wanted to, I think if I'm understanding Richard's question correctly, he wants to pull something from my drive and drag it to like his desktop or the documents onto his computer. And you can do that right from this window right here in Google Drive. Is that what you meant, Richard? This is a very versatile tool. You can do it however you think you should be able to do it. If you wanted to, you can do it from this drive, from this folder, and drag it onto your desktop here, and that moves the location as well. So let me just talk a little bit more about the tools we have here again. This is all your photos. If I click on this, it's just going to show you all the photos that I have on Google Drive, which is mostly just boring screenshots. Nothing interesting here. And then if I click on these three dots, this is where I can, if I click on About, that will show me what version I'm using. Help, this is where you get some help information. I think the information here is pretty good. I especially like the fix a problem information here. Oh, and look, Richard, we have privacy and policies right here. So I see you got your Google Drive terms of service, abuse and enforcement policy. You know, this is where, like, if you're storing stuff that we shouldn't be storing anywhere, illegal stuff, this is where Google has the right to come and get you. You know, but you have all these privacy policies here. Okay. Yeah, Richard, you can delete files off of the drive as well. It deletes it when you right-click and hit delete. It deletes it from wherever it is. All right, so let me go back. I'm going to close this and close my photos. I just want to show Google Drive. And you can send feedback if you don't like something. This is where we have our voice to Google Drive. You can pause the syncing. Every time you restart your computer, it's going to sync for the first maybe minute or two. And if that's messing things up on you, you can pause it. If your computer's running really slow and it's old, and you know you need to replace it, but you just still need to get your work done, you can pause it if it's using up too many resources, and then you can start it up again. Preferences is, let me show you that screen. Preferences is where I can decide what I want to sync from my laptop and what I want to sync from Google Drive down to my computer. And if I click on settings here, you'll see that I can disconnect my account at any time. Okay. I can also, there was an option to add an account, and I don't see it here. I think it's in the preferences. So let me go back to the preferences. And yeah, under preferences, you can add a new account. So you can add your Gmail account too as well. So you can have more than one computer upload to Google Drive. Just be careful. If you're going to upload your personal computer with your personal stuff on it onto our Stony Brook Google Drive because it's unlimited storage, don't forget you're utilizing New York State property. You may not want to have your personal stuff in the New York State property realm. And lastly, we can quit backup and sync at any time if you just don't want to use it. Okay? All right, so let me show you some of the things that you can do on the desktop, and I'm going to do the same things on Google Drive. So this is the desktop, and this is the Google Drive window. All right, so if I just click, I'm going to click on desktop to open up what we have here, and it mimics all my folders here and all my files. Okay, so you can see here if I change a file name, so let me just add a file. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. And if I add a file, like I'm going to go into New and add a publisher file, you can see here, if it's not too small, that I have these two arrows that are going round and around, or they're not going around, but it looks like they're circular arrows. And then there's a check to let me know it's processed. And once it's processed, it appears here as a new file on Google Drive. Let me change the name of that file. I'm going to call it Nicole Test Pub and hit enter. And then now it's processing again. It's processing down in Google Drive. Oops, I clicked on something. And then before you know it, you'll see it here when it's done processing. It just takes like a few seconds. And I called this, oh, here it is, Nicole Test Pub. All right, so that's changing a file name. I can create a new folder, so let me do that. Go to New, create a new, oops. And I'm just going to call these newsletters. And then you'll see newsletters up here. Oops, enter. See, it creates a new folder, and then in a few minutes, it'll show newsletters. Not my newsletters, because this is the old one. This is what I was practicing before I started this webinar. But you'll see it here. Yep, here it is. It changed. Let me delete this one because I'm not working on this one right now. Delete. And yes, I want to move it to my recycling bin. It's processing down here. And then at some point, it's going to ask me if I want to remove it. So it says, remove item in desktop from Google Drive. Yes. So it's confirming if I want to actually remove it from Google Drive and as well as the desktop. So I'm going to click on remove. So anytime, if you did accidentally delete something, you'll get a message letting you know, hey, you deleted something at least. So that way you won't be deleting things without knowing it. And lastly, what I want to show you is I'm going to put this file into this newsletter folder. So let me open up this newsletter folder, which has nothing in it now, and I'm just going to drag it in here. And at some point, it's going to update, process, and appear in my newsletters folder, my backup on Google Drive. Okay. So Diane writes, does it go into the trash when deleted? So we know when we delete it, it goes into my recycling bin here. But I'd like to see if it goes into my trash. So let's take a look. I don't know what's in my trash. I probably should have emptied it before this webinar. But yes, you can see here a copy of the trash ends up in here. So you actually have duplicate trash if you don't delete your trash. So that could be a good deal for some of us. All right, so now I want to show you how if I make folders on this side, on the drive side, how it appears on the desktop. So, you know, far too many times I'll help somebody out and I'll see what's on their computer, and every single inch of that computer is covered in files. And what you can actually do, if you did have some time, instead of organizing your files on your desktop, you can actually organize your files from Google Drive if you're not on your desktop, if you're on your home computer. How great is that? So first thing I want to do here is create a folder. So I'm in the path that I want to be in, but I'll create a folder here. I'm going to call this, I don't know, I'll just call it screenshots to make it sound professional. All right. So I got screenshots here, and then guess what? Screenshots appears on here. If I wanted to, I can move these documents. So let me click on it, and then I'm going to move my screenshots document into, my Word document into my screenshots document. Eventually, see how it disappeared and it moved into the screenshots folder. Let me do another one as well. So I'll move that one in here. Oops. I clicked on it. I'll move that into the screenshots one. It moved it in here, and it also cleans it up on the desktop as well. If I click on the screenshot folder, there's my two documents. If I click on it over here as well, there's my two documents as well. And it all updates very nicely within a matter of seconds. Okay. And then likewise, if oh wait, let me open that back up again. Likewise, let me just rearrange my screens a little bit. If I were to delete one of these in Google Drive, so let me right click and remove. Eventually, it'll remove from here. See, now it's every time you remove a file, it's always asking you to make sure, unless you want to restore it. but I'm going to remove it. And there it is. It removes. So anything you do on either side in the cloud, this is the cloud, or locally on your computer, it's going to mimic it's going to mirror. All right, how cool is that? So let me see. Denise writes, can you delete off the desktop and not from Google Drive? Yes, and I showed you that. So if you have any more questions or more concise questions, let me know about that if I haven't explained it correctly. I really like this. I think it allows me to access what's on my work computer, my desktop, my documents, so I can access those files from home or from any computer if I need to, make changes. Also, if I don't know, if your hard drive crashes, you have the backup. You don't lose your data. All right. So it is 11:31. I went over about 1 minute. I'll take any questions you have. Otherwise, I will send you this screenshot, this video, and I'll also send you the slides as soon as the video is done rendering. Again, if you want to download Backup and Sync onto your computer, please call client support or your IT professional because you need to have admin rights to download Backup and Sync and to install Backup and Sync. Oh, and I'll also send you all the information security team emails so you can ask specific information about where to store your data or to classify your data to even, to determine if it's sensitive data. All right, everybody, have a great afternoon, and I'll stay on for a few more minutes for any questions. So Diane, you're right. I have a Google Drive icon on my desktop, but it's not synced. Yeah, that's probably the old Google Drive sync application that used to sync just from your computer. Whatever you threw in that folder would go to Google Drive. But that's the old application that stopped working. And we sent out a few emails letting people know that there's a new application out. Google Drive Sync is going to stop working. So you can probably just delete it, but if you want to be extra sure, call client support to make sure and have them look at it. Yes, absolutely. And their number is 29800. I'll just type it in here, 2-9800. Thank you, Diane. Thank you for coming. All right, it's 11:35. I'm going to sign off. Have a great afternoon.